Right, bore it up, how good morning everyone. Welcome to our third Business Swansea Enterprise Club session. This one's going to be on accounting best practice. If you missed our first two sessions on social media marketing and legal obligations for starting a business, you can watch it back via our Business Swansea YouTube channel. As always, before we start, can I remind you that this session is recorded, so if you prefer for your face not to be shown, please turn off your camera by clicking the camcorder icon at the top of your screen. This session will also be uploaded onto our YouTube channel. So firstly, I think it would be a good idea for everyone to introduce themselves, tell us why you have registered to attend today, and you can also tell the group a bit about your business or the organisation that you're working for. So firstly, I'll start. My name is Stephen Williams. I'm a business support officer with Swansea Council. And my role, there's a few aspects to my role, but predominantly for one aspect of it today is to support startup businesses in Swansea through obviously running this club, administering a startup grant. And also making new businesses aware of what support is available to them, and also engaging with our partner organisations as well. So if I can ask, we've got Alicia Blackwell here. Alicia, can you tell us a little bit about why you're here and perhaps your business, please? Oh, Alicia's gone. Chris C. Welcome, Chris.
Hello there.
Nice to see you, Chris. So why are you here, Chris? Why have you tried to attend here? And what's your tell us a bit about your business organisation that you're looking to set up or work for?
I'm attending today because I've been out of work long term now due to health issues, and I'm looking at starting my own business as becoming a self-employed forklift truck instructor. I've got 22 years experience of driving forklift trucks and materials handling equipment, and due to some of the problems I've got, I'm being forced into a career change, and I'd like to know as much as I can really about going self-employed and what are the benefits and everything else really, because I'm completely new to it.
Oh, fantastic! Great to have you on board, Chris, and I'm sure you'll get a lot out of today's session. I know we've spoken previously, and obviously we'll be engaging with you going forward. Howell?
Yeah, I'm Howell Bassett. I'm a business advisor with Business Wales. What we do is we help and support startup and established businesses. I work mainly on the startup end. I think we mentioned earlier that we run startup webinars where we cover everything that you need to know or need to think about when you're starting your business, and those are quite successful. All the help and support from Business Wales is free of charge, right? And I would recommend that webinar to anybody like Chris then, who's thinking of starting his business. I think you'll get a lot out of it, Chris. And then we monitor your progress up until the time you started, right? And we perhaps help you put a business plan in place for what you want to do. You haven't got to do a business plan, but it's generally a good thing to start thinking about your business plan and your cash flow forecast. And what's important for you, of course, is that the business probably will earn enough money to keep you, isn't it, really? So you can take enough money out of the business to support you and your family then, isn't it, really? So that's the type of thing we do in Business Wales. There's also lots of other services that we've got, right? And I would recommend you have a look at the Business Wales website, really.
Brilliant.
Chris, yeah, have a look at the Business Wales website, and it says how you can get in contact with them, and obviously refer yourself for that support. Alicia, welcome back. I hope you're not having too many tech difficulties. So as we've got you, Alicia, love to see you. Tell us a bit about yourself and perhaps your business you're going to start up.
Hi, my name is Fern Pierce. It is.
Oh, sorry, Fern.
For some reason, when I log in, it logs into my daughter's account.
That's all right.
So yeah, I'm thinking about opening up like a cake business. So I have 3 children, so something that I can do at home while they're in school, obviously with lockdown and everything. So I haven't worked in a while, so going self-employed, I was hoping that it'll be beneficial for me and my children. So yeah, so trying to get all the information I can.
Great to have you, Fern, again. Great to see you. Right, one of our guest speakers today is Lee from Bevan Buckland. Hi, Lee. Quick intro, please.
My name's Lee Bradley. I'm the tax director at Bevan and Buckland. I'm a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, and I'm generally just a bit of a tax nerd. I work looking after clients, hopefully reducing their tax bill, and then if the tax office decide to open investigations into businesses, which they do on occasion, I also help the client through that and make sure the tax office behave, basically.
Oh, fantastic! We need someone like you. Keep an eye on them, Lee. Let me tell you. Right. Matt.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Matt Callahan, working in the same role alongside Steve at Swansea Council. So I won't cover what Steve said already, but picking up things like the business support hour as well, which runs parallel to this, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the other aspect is the communication. So the e-news that hopefully all of you do receive is something that I look after. And if you don't receive it, you really should be, and I'll stick a link to that in the chat a little bit later on, just so that you can make sure that you're receiving not just details of these workshops, but the whole range of support that's available, not just from ourselves at the council, but amongst our partners at Business Wales and beyond that. So it's a really useful source of information, and particularly as startups, where you might not be aware of all the information that's out there for you, and probably a little bit daunting as well. But the more you know of what's available out there, usually free of charge, the better it is for you. So I'll stick details of that in the chat in a bit. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Natalie, welcome, Natalie.
Hi.
Hi. Tell us why you registered today, and a little bit about what sort of business you're going to start up.
Yeah, my business is a holistic and life therapy business. It's a career change, really, completely different to what I've done for the last 20 years. But I've always embraced holistic therapies, always been interested in it, and started training a number of years ago in London and decided to progress into life therapies and further holistic treatments. So yeah, that's where I'm at, really. Further training and starting up. Fantastic,
Natalie. Welcome. Sarah is our other guest speaker from Bevan Buckland. Welcome, Sarah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Stephen. Morning, everyone. I'm the accounts director at Bevan and Buckland, and I've been there for a very long time now. I think it's about 22 years. And I worked for 2 firms previously. So I work alongside Lee, and we deal with a lot of new businesses. We deal with startups, small businesses and medium-sized businesses.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Look forward to hearing from you shortly. We got Tanya.
Oh, hi. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Tanya.
Oh, great. Yeah. I've just launched on the 1st of September. I launched my business called Champagne Life Coaching, and Business Wales helped me as well as NEA. And my business life coaching, my niche is for female executive directors. Basically, there's only 20% of female executive directors in the whole of the world, and the UK wants to also push that up. So it's a goal for the UK to get more women on the board and to balance their life with their work, because what's happening is women choose work and career over life and relationships, and that's having an impact on them in later life. So if they can have the ability to have both life and relationship and career, then they'll be happier in later life.
Thanks, Tanya. That's great. Certainly a few hot topics which are pretty current at the moment and have been over the last couple of years as well. So that's great to hear. We've also got Victoria F here. Victoria.
Hi, hello everybody. Yes, I've joined this meeting because, can you hear me by the way?
Yes, we can hear you.
It works. Oh, awesome. I've joined this meeting because I just wanted to learn a bit more about starting up your business and accounting with it. I just finished my first year at university and I'm just trying to learn as much as possible. I also thought about starting a bit of my own things, selling on Amazon or some other sites. I wanted to help my mum with organic honey. She's selling it and I just wanted to help her expand a bit of the business as well. So I'm just having a bit of fun and just learning as much as possible. So thank you.
It's great to have you on board, and you know, you learn. You're always, as long as you aspire to learn something new every day. I think that's a great goal to have. But it's great to have you on board, and hopefully you'll get quite a lot out of today. So thanks all for introducing yourself. That's great. So the purpose of these sessions are to cover all the essential topics relevant to starting a business. We have engaged with the local business community who will supply us with different business experts every month to facilitate these sessions. Our guest speakers today, as they've introduced themselves, are Lee Bradley and Sarah Dennis from Bevan Buckland. Bevan Buckland is the largest independent chartered accountant firm in Wales. Obviously, both Lee and Sarah are directors of the firm. Lee will be covering, obviously, the tax element and Sarah the accounting best practice. You will have the opportunity to ask both Lee and Sarah any questions at the end of their presentation, or you can write your questions in the chat and they will go through them at the end. The chat is a speech bubble at the top of your screen. I'd also politely ask for you to mute your microphone during the presentation to avoid any background noise which could distract the group. So Lee, Sarah, over to you both. Go ahead, share your screen and take it away.
Right, bear with me. There we go. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah, we can see your screen, Sarah.
Perfect. There's some lovely pictures of the both of us.
I think I was younger in that one, but
okay. When you're starting a business, it's very important to get the structure of the business correct from day one, really. We do see a lot of people that come to us that have initially set up limited companies and they've started quite small, and really from the outset there hasn't been a need for them to set up a limited company. Limited companies can be quite expensive when you're starting out, so we'll come back to that. So if I just run through all of the structures that you need to think about. If you're starting up on your own, so you're one person, a sole trader could be the structure for you. You'll have a 12-month accounting period from when you start the business, and you'll need to really register with Hmrc within 3 months. Obviously, if you get yourself an accountant, your accountant will do that for you. As a sole trader, you pay your tax in January and July. And if your tax in the first year is more than £1,000, then you have to get into the payments on account scheme, it can be a bit daunting in the first year. So basically you pay in tax up front for the following year. But I think Lee can talk about that. Tax is paid at the following rates. There's class 2 national insurance, which is voluntary tax, and it goes towards your state pension. And then you have to pay class 4 national insurance on your profits.
Bear in mind, everyone, there's announced a vote yesterday, and national insurance is going up, and it will apply to all national insurance, both employed and self-employed.
Yeah, so there's a little table here. So everybody gets a personal allowance of 12,500. So you don't pay tax up to 12,500. The class 4 national insurance rate is a little bit lower. It's about 9,500. And then basic rate tax will kick in from 12,501 up to £50,000. So this is why we think when you're starting out, a sole trader could be a good option.
There used to be years ago a lot of benefits for being a limited company because the tax rates were lower, but that's changed now. And there isn't really that much of a tax benefit. So when you look at the additional costs of a limited company on LLP, then it may be that your tax savings just go into the accountant for the extra work they need to do. So that's where we usually recommend a sole trade for a startup. unless there's big liability issues, which we'll explain a bit further down the line.
There we are. And these rates can be affected if you've got other income that uses up your personal allowance. So if you've got a rental property, something like that, that is using up your personal allowance, obviously you'll go into the basic rate quicker. The next structure is a partnership. Now, a partnership is when you go into business with somebody else and you're working together. It's always best practice to have a strong partnership agreement, because you never know if there's any disagreements down the line. You can always refer to your partnership agreement. Again, the partnership has a 12-month accounting period, but the profits of the business then are split between the partners. So if you split the profits 50-50, each partner then can declare their share of the partnership on their self-assessment tax return up to 5th of April. Your tax return is due to be submitted to Hmrc by the following 31st of January. So for instance, your 5th of April 2021 self-assessment tax return is due to be submitted to Hmrc by 31st January 2022. You also then need to do a partnership tax return. So you each have a self-assessment tax return, plus then there's a partnership tax return as well. So each partner then will pay Class 4 national insurance on the profits, and they can voluntarily then pay Class 2 NIC towards their state pension. Again, payments on account come into play if the tax is more than £1,000. So again, you'd have to pay tax in January and July. And after the first year then, if the tax is more than £1,000, Hmrc will take a payment on account towards the following year. So that first year, you can have a significant, tax bill. So it's quite good to try and put some money away for that.
It's important to remember with payments on account, because people tend to budget and save for their taxes. But what they, as Sarah mentioned, because of the extra hit of a payment on account, they don't always have the cash flow. So it's quite common when we're explaining the tax bill to an individual that they're shocked about the payments on account. It's not additional tax, it's just paying tax in advance. And once you're in it, the system isn't too bad because you pay your tax 6 monthly. However, just remember, when you're starting a business, put a bit extra aside from a cash flow point of view, because it's a nice thing to know that you've got the money for your tax bill rather than being shocked and thinking, where am I going to get that from? So.
Okay, we're on to a limited company. Now, a limited company is a separate entity. It is like a separate person, and a lot of people get confused with that. You have to treat a company as a separate person. You do get a limited liability with a company. So they are quite good for businesses that have a risky element to them. We have a lot of builders that are limited companies. So if there's any kind of risk of litigation, a limited company is a good vehicle to use, really. So, if anyone does come along, doesn't like something that you've done, your house then is protected because you are a separate entity to the company. So if you do set up a limited company, you can take a salary from that company. And then if the company is profitable, you can take dividends. A company is completely different to a partnership and a sole trader in as much as you have to be registered with Companies House. And you get a 12-month accounting period, but you then have to submit accounts to Companies House 9 months after that 12-month accounting period. The company then pays 19% on its profits at the moment, and you can register with Hmrc when it first gets set up with Companies House. The director then prepares their own self-assessment tax return to declare the salary and the dividends, and you as a director then get your own tax-free allowance as a sole trader, so you get the £12,500 tax-free allowance.
Director, not sole trader.
Sorry, director. As a director then you can have £2,000 tax-free dividend, and then anything above that you pay 7.5% tax on.
which again, part of yesterday's announcement, the dividend rates are going up because a lot of directors don't pay national insurance because of the way we set their salaries. We do it on purpose to reduce the overall tax take. However, the government are changing things in order to ensure that directors pay the additional taxes that employees are going to pay.
Okay. The last one then is a limited liability partnership, an LLP, which is kind of a hybrid between a partnership and a company. So with an LLP, you get the same protection as a limited company in case of litigation. And again, it's registered with Companies House, and you've got the same regulations as with a limited company. So you've got to file your accounts 9 months after the LLP year end. Tax-wise, they are taxed like a partnership. So each of the profits from the LLP are declared on the members' self-assessment tax returns as they would be in a partnership. So it's kind of a hybrid between a limited company and a partnership.
But just for point of note, with these structures, you can change from a sole trader to a limited company. You can change from a sole trader to a partnership or LLP. It's very simple to do changing from in that way. But if you change from a limited company back to a sole trader, which can be done, it is a little more complicated. I wouldn't say it's massively complicated, but it is a little bit more fiddly. Then that's the best way to describe it. There's certain tax reliefs that are available to make it achievable. But just bear in mind and take proper advice if that's something you end up doing. And what we would recommend for most small businesses is probably start as a sole trader, and then you can convert to a limited company. You can convert to a limited company in as little as a month. So if the sole trade takes off very well, and you have concerns that there could be reasons why you need limited liability, then you can incorporate very shortly after. There's no reason, there's no reason why you can't. So it's just bear in mind that a sole trader is a lot simpler, nice way to start, more cost effective. And effectively, when you start a business, you are dipping the toe in the water, really, aren't you? Because you need to know, is it going to work? Am I going to make money? So it's probably the best way to start, I would suggest, unless there's a very good reason why you should be limited straight away.
Exactly. And you can get good business insurance that will cover for, most eventualities. And insurance companies, insurance is much better these days than they used to be. I mean, insurance companies used to wriggle out of paying, but they have gotten better over the years. So get good business insurance if you start up as a sole trader or a partnership. Record keeping, it's a very good way to save tax, and we would encourage everyone, if you're going into business, to keep good records, because it will save you tax.
So think of tax. Every receipt is like cash. As I say to people all the time, with Toby, they throw their receipt away. If you've got £100 receipt with a tax bill and the NI bill, that's effectively £30. So would you put £30 in the bin? None of us would. So every time you get a receipt, remember that's the equivalent of cash in your pocket.
Okay, so it's good to get a business bank account when you're starting up. Most of the big banks will offer you free banking, 12 or 18 months. But we're seeing a lot of businesses now using online banks, Tide and Starling, primarily because they're quite quick at getting your account up and running. I think the high street banks, they do take a little bit of time to set up the bank account. But if you're dealing with a lot of cash, probably a high street bank might be better for you. But if everything's online, obviously look at the online banks. They're quick and easy to use. Record keeping, as we've mentioned, keep all of your invoices. Think about how you're going to do your record keeping. We have historically given people free spreadsheets, but because of Making Tax Digital, which is something that Hmrc have been bringing in, they've brought it in for VAT at the moment. So you've got to, if you're VAT registered, the limit is 85,000. So if your sales go over 85,000, you need to VAT register. You do now have to do your VAT returns online. So you need an accounting package to do that. They will accept spreadsheets, but you have to get a bridging software to get the figures from your spreadsheet to Hmrc. It's worth thinking about an accounting package. There are some good ones out there that are free, things like Pandal, Free Agent. There's one we were looking at the other day, Coconut. And that was, that'll set you up from day one. And most of them have YouTube videos. So if you get stuck on anything, you can go onto YouTube and there's normally a video on there that'll show you what to do. So making tax digital for self-employed businesses and landlords with income over £10,000 is coming in from the 6th of April 2023. So it'd be quite good if you could get yourself on an accounting package before then, because Hmrc will want quarterly updates then. So they want to know what your sales, expenses and profits are on a quarterly basis. Expenses and what you can claim. Travel and expenses on business trips between different places of work. You can't claim, like I go back and forward to my office quite regularly. I can't claim that because it's a commute. But if you're a plumber and you go into a different place of work every single day, you can claim those travel expenses and subsistence if you're away from home. So I couldn't pop over to Tesco's and claim a sandwich lunchtime, but if I get sent to Cardiff or London on a business trip, I can claim for my food when I'm away from home.
The way I always suggest that is think about it if you were an employee and you went to your boss and said, you sent me down the road to do some work. I popped to the same Tesco's that's opposite our office to get a sandwich. Can I have my money back, please? Then your boss would probably say no. So when you're self-employed, if you just think that way, the rules aren't identical, but if you just think in that manner, it usually gives you an indication of what you could and couldn't claim with subsistence and travel.
Use of home as office. A lot of us now are working from home. There is a standard amount that Hmrc allows you to claim, and it's £6 a week, so it works out at £312 a year. For a small business, it just covers you for your light and heat for doing your paperwork at home. Certain businesses you can claim more. I've put an example there. If you're an author and you are working from home day in, day out, then we can probably claim a bit more, but obviously we have to justify it and it has to be reasonable. But generally it's £312 a year and Hmrc approve that. If you're self-employed, you can claim for the running costs of your vehicle, such as your car tax, your MOT, your insurance, repairs and petrol. If you use it privately, though, you can only claim for the proportion that it's used for business. So you need to work out, is it 5%, is it 10% that I'm using privately, and then do a deduction for that. Again, if you use an accountant, your accountant will do that for you. Sometimes if you keep a track of your business miles, it can work out better if you claim 45p a mile. So if you don't do many miles, mileage is probably the way to go. And we always claim mileage through a limited company. We don't tend to have cars in companies because of company car tax.
Very expensive, very expensive.
Unless you've got an electric car. Wages, you can claim for employee wages and any training costs. And normally, if you have a Christmas party, you can claim £150 per person for the Christmas party.
If you spent that on them, obviously. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we get asked this quite a lot. You can't claim expenses on travelling back and forth to your normal place of work, which we've discussed. Meals, you can't claim for meals unless you go on a business trip. And you cannot claim for your own wages as an expense if you're a sole trader or partnership. So if you take money out of the business, that's your drawings. You can have a deduction in a limited company if you're an employee of the company and on the payroll scheme. Okay, I touched on VAT registration earlier. If your business turnover goes over £85,000 in a 12-month period or within a 30-day period, then you have to register for VAT with Hmrc. And to register with VAT, you have to complete a VAT 1 form. Once you're registered, this means you need to add VAT onto your selling price, which is an extra 20%. But it also means then that you can reclaim any VAT on any business expenses that you incur. VAT returns are normally completed and submitted to Hmrc every quarter, and you get 30 days to submit that VAT return. And obviously you've got to do it online now, so that because they've forced you to do it online, you get an extra 7 days. So it's 30 days plus the 7 days. It can be beneficial to be VAT registered if your customers are also VAT registered. So basically you raise a sales invoice, you add the VAT on, your customer doesn't really care because they can reclaim that VAT. You can also voluntarily VAT register even if your sales are under £85,000. The pros of VAT registration are it can make your business seem bigger to your customers. And obviously you can claim back the VAT on your expenses as well. The cons then, it means that you're less competitive as you've got to add VAT onto your sales invoices, so your prices go up. So our top tips. Think about doing a business plan and a cash flow. And obviously we've got a gentleman here from Business Wales, so they can help you with that. It's a good idea to sort out a business plan at the beginning. It'll help you if you're going for finance. The lenders will want to see it together with a cash flow. You know, it will put you in good stead then, because as you're going along in business, you can always refer back to that business plan and check how you're doing, how you're getting on with the business. Cash flow then, the key to every small business is cash flow. If you can try and agree credit terms with your suppliers, so you can delay paying your suppliers until you've been paid, that will help enormously with your cash flow. We can't say often enough to our clients to open a savings account, really, to put a percentage of your income in it towards your tax bill at the end of the year. You know, we've had clients that have done really, really well, and they've gone out and bought themselves a nice expensive car, and then when their tax bill has arrived at the end of the year, they've got no money to pay it. I'd always say be aware of what your competitors are doing. Don't be afraid to tweak your prices as well, especially in the first year. We've had quite a few clients that have put their prices too low and have realised this. You know, they've been running at a loss, so we've had a conversation with them. Look at your prices, put your prices up. One of them was a bit reticent to do that, but he did in the end, and it turned around his business enormously. So do keep an eye on what your competitors are doing. Make sure that you've priced your product correctly. I'd also say start small. Know where you want to be though in 5 or 10 years. So obviously your business plan will come into play. It's important to set realistic targets and goals in order to keep your business from stagnating. Planning is a good idea as it provides your business with direction as well. A client of ours started his online sales business just in his garden shed, and a couple of years later he was selling it for 2 million. Lastly then, Hmrc will never contact you by email. So if you get an email to say that you've got tax outstanding, you do a refund, be careful because there are a lot of scams out there. So, and that's our final tip.
There's also the scam where they phone you and tell you the police are going to come if you don't pay a tax bill. Firstly, Hmrc don't involve the police, and secondly, the police don't tend to phone you to tell you they're coming to arrest you. So that is a crap. We get that quite regularly, actually. So.
Yeah, I get a lot of scam texts from HMRC, and I'm sure everyone else does here. So it's a common problem, really. And they're getting more intricate, aren't they? Especially with their, with their phone numbers and so on. I think one good tip is if you're going to phone their HMRC, once you've had a text or something, contact them. Use a different phone than the one that you've received that text from, because there's a lot of different techie things that these scammers can do now.
To be honest, I've lost track of how many times my mum has texted me to say that I got a tax refund. And I said, Mum, I've told you before, you haven't got a tax refund.
Okay, that's great, guys. That was really informative. Thanks. And it was you put in all the pertinent details there for us all, for us all to follow. And I think the important thing for the startups is you made it simple and coherent as well. Which is great.
Can I just answer? Victoria's put a question on the thing.
Yeah, of course.
Victoria, it does depend on whether you've got other income or forms of benefit that are taxable. So if you've got income below £1,000 from a self-employed business, there's an allowance, so you don't have to declare that to HMRC. If it's over, so say it's £5,000 a year, and you've got no other forms of taxable income, then you probably don't have to register with HMRC, but you need to monitor the income carefully, because if you go over and don't tell them, they will apply penalties. So it's something that if you've got a very small business that's not doing much, it's more a hobby is the wrong word, but it's more a lifestyle choice, a lifestyle business, and the income is very low, and you're definitely not taxable on it, then there's because of the 12,500 allowance, then you're probably okay not to register, but just monitor it very carefully. It doesn't mean you can't keep records, because without the records, you can't prove to HMRC that your business isn't in fact making £1 million. So just a little careful one with that. Yeah, we can email the presentation. That's no problem.
If you email it over to me, Lee, I'll circulate it to the attendees today. And also, guys, I put a link up on there for our Business Swansea YouTube channel, and you can watch this. You can watch this back, because it's a great facility to use, just to cover different elements, especially when you're starting your business and you want to have a look back on certain things you need to sort of consider. Is there any other questions? If there are, you want to verbally ask, by all means, if you just put your hand up, there's an icon there with a face symbol and a hand. Just put it in there. While we're waiting, I got a little question. What are like the common errors that you see from your small business clients with regards to their accounting and tax? There must be some common threads that common issues that you generally get from, especially when they're starting out.
The first thing I would say is be careful when you choose your accountant. You may not need a big firm like ours. That's fair to say. But be careful when you choose your accountant. First of all, make sure it's someone you get on with, because you are going to be trusting this person and they are going to be helping you grow your business, hopefully. The other thing to mention is, I don't know if people are aware of this, but to call yourself an accountant or tax advisor, you don't have to be qualified. So there are a lot of people out there that have no qualifications in these subjects, but have a business doing these things. Some of them are fine, some of them are great. Others aren't. And then there's no recourse. If your accountant gets your taxes wrong and they're not qualified, there's nobody to go to. Whereas if they're a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation like me, member of any of the associations with accountants, then you can go to that association and make a formal complaint. So one of the biggest issues we see, and as terrible as it sounds, is people come to us where their accounts have been done for the last 3 years. They've had a tax investigation. The tax office have looked at it and said, well, this is all wrong. There's a big tax bill involved. When they go back to the individual, they just kind of blank them then and don't deal with them. Whereas if if I did something like that, a formal complaint would be made. So obviously there's a professional standard. So as terrible as it sounds, make sure you like the person, but also check their qualifications.
We do have a lot of people saying that their accountant is unresponsive as well. So that's a flag. If your accountant isn't getting back to you, and you need the advice, obviously, perhaps look for another agent, because they should be coming back to you.
The other things are just bear in mind about personal expenditure. So things like clothing. Clothing is never allowable unless it's specialist clothing. And then there's, it's use a bit of common sense and say, well, is this a real business expense? And, just try and deal with it in that way. Oh, sorry, I've got a delivery. I do apologise. 2 seconds.
We do also offer a free hour meeting as well. So if anybody, is about to start their business, they're really beneficial to come, please come and see us, because that initial meeting is free.
That's great, Sarah. Tanya's put a question up here. Are there any courses offered by Hmrc to further our understanding of tax? Well, you're in, Lee. There's a question from Tanya. Are there any courses offered by Hmrc to further our understanding of tax?
There are various webinars. They're not the greatest. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but Hmrc aren't very good at tax. I'm seeing an individual tomorrow who phoned me this morning. He's phoned Hmrc 3 times and given 3 different answers by 3 different people. It's terrible to say. A lot of the phone calls we deal with individuals for tax is where they phone up and say, even helping people understand their tax codes, because the tax codes are wrong. And it's such a simple thing, but so you can watch the webinars from Hmrc. A lot of them are very factual, but they're not very advising, if you see what I mean. It's more, this is the tax allowance, this is this, this is this. So and also be careful Googling tax. Again, there's a lot of stuff out there. Tax is not black and white. Tax can be a very grey area. And you will all remember the days where Jimmy Carr and people like him were not paying any tax, and then the tax office came in and attacked it all and made them pay their tax bills. Well, Jimmy Carr and all the others paid so-called tax advisors an awful lot of money to do that. It was a very grey area. Some of our clients did it. We did encourage them not to, but they did it anyway, and they all had to pay them tax back plus the big fees they were paying. So unfortunately, there are people out there that will advise on tax, tell you, I can save you lots of money. And I always say to people, use the sniff test. So if someone comes to you and says, I give it away, you're not going to pay any tax, and I'm going to charge you £1,000 to do it, why aren't they multi-millionaires? If I knew a way of people didn't have to pay tax, I wouldn't be sitting here now. I'd be on a beach somewhere. So just beware that, it is quite a bizarre subject in that respect.
That's great. Matt, hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of things. We were speaking a few minutes ago around sort of scams, that sort of thing. We did a session with Wales Cybersecurity Centre about a month ago now. It's on our YouTube channel, and part of that we did cover cybersecurity and scams, email, text, otherwise. So if you've got concerns about that, head to our YouTube channel. It's in the chat box a few messages back. Go and have a watch of that session. Second thing was just a question around, you mentioned about the free digital accounting packages that are available. But obviously there's stuff like Quickbooks and Xero available. For a startup, would you recommend the free one? And if so, is there any point where you would need to jump to a paid one? And how difficult is it to do that? So there's a couple of questions in there, but it's just sort of the free versions versus the paid ones that you tend to see, and where that sits for a startup.
I think I know a few people that are using Pandle, and they get on very well with that, and it's free. Quickbooks and Xero we would recommend as well, but they both, I think Quickbooks do half price for 6 months, something like that, but normally it works out about £8 or £12 a month, and then Xero then is a little bit bigger and it's a little bit more expensive. So maybe try one of the free ones, see how you get on. They're quite easy to use. And then as you progress, then as the business starts doing really well, perhaps you can upgrade then to something like Quickbooks or Xero.
I'd probably say if you're going to change as well, you do it at your year end, because it'll make life easier. Changing partway through it's not difficult to do, but it's very time consuming. And you at the end of the year, then if you've made a mistake somewhere, you regret it, if you see what I mean. Whereas if you start afresh on the first day of your brand new accounting year, it makes life a lot simpler.
Okay, we got a question.
Sorry, I just mentioned that. Just make sure that they're making tax digital compliant. And you can go on Hmrc website, and there's a list of the software that is making tax digital compliant.
Okay, we've got another question in the chat here. Victoria F. What about when you are also working and have your own business and you receive an income from both? I'm a student now, so I don't have to pay taxes for my work. So does it go the same for my business?
No. So Victoria, the reason you don't pay probably tax on your income at present is because it's below the 12,500. If it was over the 12,500, a student isn't exempt from tax. A student does pay tax like everyone else. So certainly when I was a student, I worked probably a bit too much and I was paying tax then. So basically, your income is added together in like one big pot. And if the pot goes over the allowances that were on the presentation, that's when you pay tax. So same for national insurance as well.
Right. Question from Chris here. If expecting an annual earning of around 24 to 34k, how much on average would you recommend in percent to put away for tax, NI and pension?
Just working it out quickly now, Chris, on the 34%. So call it 31 change to. So you're probably looking at a tax bill on 34,000 of roughly 6,600. So think about it as a percentage, 34, sorry, 6,665 divided by 34, 1, 2, 3. It's about 20%. So I'd probably up that a little bit if I were you. I'd probably put it to something like, what we usually say is 25%. Now, when you've got a payment on account after the first year, which you would have on that kind of income, you may want to increase it for year one to about 30%, 30% year one, and then you can drop it to 25 at a later date, assuming they don't put taxes up any higher. So,
great, thanks, Lee.
No problem.
Right, hand up with Howell.
I was just wondering, as accountants, right, do you still offer the service of half an hour's free advice for a startup client?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Well, first hour, if it goes on a bit, it goes on a bit. You know, we're not rigid to it.
Right. We always recommend to our clients to take advantage of that from accountants then, really, to make sure that they set off on the right foot, really, isn't it?
We also offer startups free telephone and email advice within reason. I've got to say within reason, because we've had a couple where we had one client, for example, who engaged a bookkeeper who didn't actually know what they were doing. They were paying the bookkeeper and the bookkeeper was phoning us daily. So, you know, at that point we had to say, look, come on, guys. But in general, if a client phones with a quick question, we don't charge them